हेलो एवरीवन, वी हैव टू डिस्कस अबाउट दैट मैंस आंसर राइटिंग देख लेते हैं। जो क्वेश्चन रिलेटेड टू सोसाइटी, क्वेश्चन रिलेटेड टू ALP प्रोग्राम 2022 सोसाइटी एंड मोक मैंस मोक। क्वेश्चन नंबर 1, popular culture in the form of the film and has led to many the basis against the genders and sexuals oriented in India, and do you agree? Critically examines approach क्या है? Candidate can showcase how films are minings of societies and how they influences our population's culture with the help of examples, evolutions of cinemas, and can be the highlighted while giving other way. Related concept LGBTQ and communities and key points discriminations of objectifications of women and Catholics and Christian and structural discriminations and masculinity. Matherly figures and KA accuse case. Introduction. Cinema is reflected in society and society is reflected in cinema and popular movies that prove violence and base against the women have started becoming trade satires in youth age groups, and gradually they incapt the ideas of violence as the state of the achievement in which is futures carried in their the elders life body. Cinema and genders. In the modern context of demographic Indias and medias in any the forms and has becomes the product and machineries of value and cultures in the society among the consumers class, and cinemas is major parts of this and the machineries. However, since its the inceptions and cinemas has also taken part in the representations of social cultural beliefs, practices and ideologies of the ruling classes in one ways or the others, and thus the social cultural practices includes the patriarchy, classism and the capitalism amongst many other due to the massive reach and the cinemas and as other value productions institutions and the formulations of and the independence opinions of the audience is hindered, and medias in the generals is accepted to be the reflections of the society, and while it is and the arguable notions and whether the cinema's objectivity and reflected the enacted acts scenarios of the society, it is the equals quiet and the evidence that it is the influences the society ideologies and perceptions. The portrayals of the women in cinemas and has been the best stereotypical sexuals and the even misogynist during the early 17 and 18 women in India cinemas and where the portrayed as other submissions and the homely and creations. The characteristifications of the woman was limited and to the sacrificing mothers and who is hard working domestic works in the generals other devoted life wife and the innocent sisters and who is about to get the marriage and but with the brothers and the permissions or and the actress whom the heroes position with the virtuals of his the masculinity in 19th cinemas, and we get other gallants and where young brothers characters are allowed to be the liberals to and the extended or the occupations of the females characters, and where the breakings the stereotypical housewife and tag but steals the monthly figures, and where's the confidence within the sacrificing zone of families. The dawn of the 21st centuries makes and the efforts to the minimizing the gender's basis and comes up and with the cinemas and the Swadesh Chak De Indias and Dur. And since the early 21st century, cinemas started reflecting on the growth of women and empowered in real life, and when women's dignity is shows to be the braided. It is the hero and who has to become the saviors. Thus, in real life, alone and woman is perceived to be the gullibles and attacked by the miscreant. Motion pictures has other deep and lasting impact and Supreme Court in K.A. and Abbas. Motion pictures has other deep and lasting impact Supreme Court in K.A. and Abbas and case it is not that the society as a whole gets negativities influences but the devotee shows having the physique bent for the violence and the misogynist does get influences. What can be done? Their movies like the Mary Combs, Pinks and Thappad, Piku, Mothers, India's etc. and thus tries to be breaks the stereotypes and but the damage has been done cinemas and the fraternity and will need to the put some extra works to break the storied to ties against the women and there are the steel eyes and the calchings and items and numbers in the cinemas and which the drive and the footfall aid the theaters and objectifications of women in songs and secondary positions aid the mercy of the patriotism and violence behavior of male actors towards the females lead are the some examples of reinforcing the views of the patriarchal mindset. As India is approaching 75 years of independence, we must pledge to the eradicated all forms of discriminations and abuse against the women and pupils of the LGBTQ communities. Thus, marginalized sectors needs new airs to breathe in ours the accused of development and prosperities. The girls, the first step would be the eradicated structural discrimination and the spreading awareness about the equalities and tolerant popular films like the Badhai Ho, Aligarh Kapoors and Sons are the trying to spread the awareness about the LGBTQ community and force with the empathy and inner entertainment and will brings a positive change in attitude of youngsters. Conclusion. Indian cinema has evolved over the period of time and from the misogynist and patriarchals of the protagonist to female characters in lead. We have come a the long ways. Films are the bringing positions changes to the stories and roles, but more can be done to create other massive movement for women's empowerment and awareness about sexual oriented among the general populace. Question number second. What do you understand by the terms and stereotypes and prejudice in the societal context? Explain the help of those situatables example. Approach. रिलेटेड कंसेप्ट इकोनॉमिक इनक्वालिटी है उसमें कीवर्ड क्या है एक्सक्लूजन्स सोशल वेलफेयर है अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ भी है सोशल मोबिलिटीज़ जनरलाइजेशन है उसमें और वैल्यू जजमेंट इक्वालिटी पॉइंट ले सकते हैं इंट्रोडक्शंस when we have exceptions or feelings about the pupils and based on the characters like sex, genders, maternity, maternal situations, or pregnancy, we may act in ways that the negativities affected individuals or groups of pupils, and often we don't even think about the stereotypes of the prejudice, and we hold and may hard or disadvantage people without realizing it. Body. What is the stereotypes? Stereotypes is the thought that someone has about the specific types of individuals that may or not equitably affected effects and realities. Stereotypes can also be the thought of like and caricatures and which are the pictures and that the exaggerated certain features while oversimplifying over other and end up the distorting the essence of and the individuals. Many the stereotypes are widings help, but they are also overgeneralized images or ideas and about other particular types of persons and anytime we group individuals together and make other generalizations or judgment about them without the knowing them, and this is an example of the stereotype. What is prejudice? A prejudice is and the opinions usually and the unfavorable one that was the formed and before having any the evidences and that is not based on the religious reasons or experiences while other stereotype in is either thought about a persons or groups of pupils. A. The prejudice relates to the feelings and attitudes about that the person or group of pupil. Prejudice are the often rooted in the ideas that the certain types of pupils and are both less or are the less capable than others. By prejudices and the stereotypes can be the harmful. Stereotypes and the prejudice are the harmful because they ignore the fact that each the individual has his or her own ability, strength, weakness, desire, thoughts, and feelings. Our sex and genders are the parts of who we are, the but and thus the characterized and do not define us, even if other stereotypes is collect in other specific situations, putting someone down or acting in other discriminatory and way does not encourages and that the in individuals to the succeed and the stereotypes and don't just the described and but the pupils are like they also define and what they should and be the like or what and role they the should have on the basis of characteristics and such as sex, genders, materials, status or the pregnancy. The prejudices also the lead pupils to make the value judgments and the assumed what pupils can do or the cannot do the because of who they are, and all of this leads and to the discriminations and limits and equality of opportunity. Example: discriminated view of the transgenders community and the stereotypes them as the unnaturals and or deviant with the occult and practices has led them to the bejaries and the exclusions from the participating in education, in employment opportunities or political arenas, and which has led to the several social and the economic inequalities which is the perpetuating across the generations. Some studies has even shown that when the pupils are aware of specific stereotypes and about themselves, for example, that the girls are bad at the math or that men are not good communities, and that knowledge affected their the perceptions of their own ability and also their the performance. What can be done in order to combat stereotype and reduce the prejudices? We can all try to learn and more about the pupils and especially those and who are the different from us and the understand and values our the similarities and ours the differences. If we are more and the conscious of ours the assumptions, we can also choose how we respond and within our the families and home lives and in the workplaces as the employers and the employees is the parliaments and teachers and mentors to the children's and in the others relationships and positions that we have and hold. Conclusions: our prejudices and views and the caricatures and often lead us to the favoritism amongst groups and which decrease the pure social participations of certain groups and which and decrease their the social mobility to achieve goal of social welfare. Educating message to learn and skills and the sensitivity in schools can be the promoted. Question number third: with the help of the suitable example, explain the concept on the intersectionalities. With the help of the internal sexualities. Question is strength forwards candidate in expected to discuss in details the concept of the intersectionalities with respect to genders rights and with the help of the sustainable example while highlighted the importance of it. रिलेटेड कंसेप्ट सस्टेनेबल ऑपरेशंस है, किसी जेंडर से रिलेटेड है, इंस्क्रिप्शनल स्लैंस रेस से रिलेटेड है, सोशल्स कैटेगराइज्ड क्लास से रिलेटेड है, सेक्सुअल्स ओरिएंटेशंस इक्वालिटी. इंट्रोडक्शन. Intersectionalities is the concept that all the operations is linked and more the acceptabilities. The Oxford Dictionary defines the intersectionalities as the interconnected natures of social categorizations and such as the race and class and genders and regarded as the creating overlappings and interdependent system of discriminations or disadvantage body. What is the intersectionalities? Intersectionalities is the acknowledge and that everyone has theirs ones unique experiences of discriminations and operations, and we must consider everything and anything and that can the marginalized pupils caste sexual orientations physical availability etc first and the coins by the process by the professors and the Kimberley and the Crenshaws back in 1989 and intersectionalities and was the added to the Oxford dictionaries in 2015 with its the importance and increasingly and being the recognized in the world of women's rights intersectionally and the women's rights without and the intersectionalities and lens over the effects and to the takers inequalities and injustice towards the women are the likely to just and up and the perpetuating systems of inequalities and for example a black woman's may experience and the misogynies and the racism but she will experience and the misogynies differently and from other while women and the racist differently and from other black men. The works towards women's right must be the intersectionals and any the feminism and that the purely representation the experience of whites and middle class and owls bodies in her heterosexuals and etc and women will fail to achieve the equalities for all. In Indian context, either Dalit women face the catalyst and the sexism and whereas there are also the women who are the trained and disabled and Dalits who face the combinations of the transphobias and ableism and casteism and simply and put but intersectionalities is the theories and that the overlaps of various social identities contributes to the specific types of systematically operations and discriminations experience why and the individuals and we needs to the acknowledge the importance of the intersectionalities while the fightings for equalities why the intersectionalities is important to eliminate it violence against all the women and the girls and we have to address and how the violence differs and between the groups of women and because the violence women and girls experience isn't just been on their the genders and 44% of the lesbians women experience intimates and partners violence that compares to the 35% of the heterosexual women and girls who the disabilities are 2 to 4 times and more the likely to experience domestic violence than women without disabilities. Hence, intersectionalities is about the learning and understanding view from others women lessons to include and the meaningfully and collaborations with the diverse and groups of women as we becomes more the intersectionals and better as the understanding differences our language evolve to the simplify reflecting experience from the pupils of the singulars and identified looking through and the intersectional feminist जो रहते हैं lens and we see how different communities are the battling various interconnected issues and all it is it and the voice and standings in the solidarities and with one and the another questionings and powers the structures and speakings out and against the root and causes inequalities are the critical actions for the building of the future that the leaves no one behind conclusion If we see inequalities as them the problems or the unfortunated others problems, and that is other problems, and we have got to be the open to the all lookings at all of the ways our the systems reproduced thus inequalities, and that the include the privileges as well as the theme. Question number 4: why is the commodifications of women so common? Who should we hold and the responsibles for the same and critically examines approach? Candidate can define the commodifications of women and explains the sociological factors and behind it. In the second parts, institutions and factors responsible for the commodifications can be given and with other way forward. Related concept keywords. कमोडिफिकेशंस ऑफ बॉडीज में क्या रहता है? फेमिनिटीज एंड कैपिटलिस्ट कंज्यूमराइज्म इंडस्ट्री एंड मीडिया सेंसिटिबिलिटीज का कीवर्ड है अवेयरनेस एंड सबऑर्डिनेटेड ऑफ वुमन सेंसिटिफिकेशंस. इंट्रोडक्शंस. The commodifications of the femininity or selling gender is other term used to the describe how the manufacturers strategic market जो प्रोडक्ट रहते हैं towards women for the purposes रहते हैं of selling into and the exploiting there's the feminities and the domestic cities. The commodifications of the feminities and domestic and demonstrates and how other feminine gender identity is not and inherent and equal inherent qualities all women are the simply warm with, but rather other constructions and products through the commercializations bodies. What is the commodifications of women? Perceptions that the persist on every the corners of the globes, and that women and girls are the interferers, and that their the bodies are tools and with which men can get what they the want or objects, and that can be the man handles and used and asides anyhow governments and inform the abuse that the women and girls face every day. Women can be the commodified by the commodifications of the bodies and commodification of sexualities and commodification of moralities, commodifications of feelings. When we talk about the commodifications of the bodies of women and girls, we are talking about the females being the reduced to the maritally and the object of trade. Sexual oblifications is just one the symptoms of this the reductions in the values of the female's person. As soon as we start the db humanizing humans being, and we are the capables of doing the abuse things to them and things of the rhetorize, and that the fad the beast, and that are the holocaust and slavery's colonizations, and they are the embased in other bases. As soon as we start the dehumanizing and humans beings, and we are the capable of doing also awarefuls and things to them and things of the rhetorics, and that the fate and the beast, and that are the holocaust and slavery's colonizations. They are the embased and in the basics and brutis and ideology that the pupils and subjected to thus and the crimes, and where's the inferiors, and that they where's less than humans. Commercializations and practices targeted at the women's maintain the specific females feminines and roles and occupations and concult and enabling the subordinate of women to men. Who should be held responsible for the commodifications? Popular art, popular cinemas and pops musics and advertisement industries, porn industries, fashion industries, capitalizing consumerizations. What can be done? it is important to enact and the enforce and the legislations and developed and implement policies that promotes genders equalities while the ending discriminations against the women's policies and such as the development of the media sensitivities patients and families and involvement in the watching television sensitizations of religions and portray of girls in medias in other positive ways and promotes the egalitarian gender norms as parts of the life skills and the comprehensive sexualities education curricula stuff to the young people. Conclusion: the mass media in has not done an effort about the discussing the issues and related to the women and prepared the women to workforce there's the right and works and for the equal roles in society. It is the clear and that the commodifications and objectifications of the women in medias have the negatives and effect on our the society and for the preventing the objectifications in the girls and women it is need to the increase the societals and rewards and social powers. What do you understand why the terms and the agencies and in the context of women empowerment explain approach? Candidate can define the agencies in the sociological terms and while the stabilizing the connect between the empowerment and the LAGC factors and that can the enhances women agencies can be the started. Relating concept keywords labor force and the participations and the powers within the autonomy freedoms of movement consciousness and freedoms from the violence networks introductions agency is the ability and to agency is the ability to identified goal or more or makes the voice and that act upon them women can the exercise agencies in many the different ways as the individuals and collectively within the families and through there the participations in markets policies and others the formals and informals network body agency and women empowerment and both the feminist socials and political philosophies and feminist ethics and supports the theory of women's agencies and the account of their the capacities for the individualized choice and action agencies is one of the central and component in empowered man research and it is the inherently difficult to measure and is often the misunderstood and participations materials resources are more the observations and then the critical conscience and hence are the often considerations synonyms with empowerment and agencies is the capacities to act and agencies in some words and what some related to the autonomy and what is different autonomies is independence the freedoms to act without the external controls or influences autonomy does not the necessary imply agency one could have the independence without the capacities to act and when we the lack agencies and we lack the ability to act how agencies works the way agencies interact and with the relationships is also not the straightforward forms of agency or achievement such as the increased and mobility increased access to asset or education may indicated empowerment in some the context and not in others in the certain context and that others. To avoid talking agencies for the granted and empowerment is the process empowerment is concerned and with the process and why which the pupils becomes the aware of their the one interested and how does the relate to those of the others and for thus and the reasons and measurings the empowerment resources requisite and combining and the endogenous or internal perspectives and the pairings that with and the exogenous and for the external perceptions. Women's powers can be the embed in the Procal's arrangement and that can only be the understand across all lives and stage of the woman's consciousness and status can be the connected and to there's the children's and the grandchild. Accordingly, agency and should be the defined and viewed the observables and actions to include the values and that gives the meanings, motivations and purposes. Agencies is the crucial aspect to women's empowerment, but empowerment goes and beyond the agencies. The ability to make the decisions might aid the face values look like the powerment and but it is can and the actually reinforces women and subordinated and the traditional genders roles and both factors and can the works to enhances the women and agencies. Direct indicators powers within the includes aspirations and self the efficiencies and attitudes towards gender norms, household decisions making power and freedoms the movement and freedoms for the involves. Interact indicators times of marriage and childbearings and contraceptions use labors force the participations income generation from the entrepreneurship participations in politics and in the community decisions making voting behavior participations in groups and ties in the community. Conclusion: women's agencies is and the important constitutes of women empowerment. Women agencies can be said to be the operatives when it is the results in either fundamental shift in perceptions or inner the in transformation so that women are able to define the self-interest and the entire themselves to make the choice. Question number 6. Examine the significance of prize as the laboratories of the social empowerment in India approach. Candidate can elaborate on the evolutions of PRI whilst highlighting the social empowerment aspect of the same aspects like the women's empowerment can be given while the startings limitations of PRIs. Related concept and keywords: gram sabhas and autonomies and financial commission finance and direct democracy transparency and LM Singhvi committees and aspirations. Introductions: Panchayati Raj institutions PRI is other systems of rural locals and self governments in the India's local self government is the management of local affairs and versus the locals bodies and who have been elected by the local peoples and PRI was the constitutionalized and through the 73rd Constitutional Amendment and Act 1992 to the World Democracy Aid the Grass and Roots and Labors and was the entrusted and with the task of rural development in the economy in the country. PRI and the social empowerment. Panchayati Raj institutions PRI as the unit of local government have been and in the existence in order and for the long time in one the forms or the anothers and however it was only and in the 1992 and on the recommendations of the LM Singhvi committees 1986 and that it was the granted constitution situation as the third levers of India Federation democracy through the 73rd Amendment Act. The primarily objections of stabilizing the third tiers of the government PRI is to increase the democratic participations to better and the articulated local needs and the prosperities and to ensure a more efficient use of the local resources along with the greater accountabilities and transparency in the 2.5 lakh grounds panchayatas in the countries and have been the interested and to provide the basic services in the village and plan for local economically development and the decisions making process of the panchayats and is such that the gram sabhas and GAs discusses the development works plans and the enacted representation executes the plan. since all the eligibles and border of the village can participates in the gram sabhas, and it is the channels and to include the less and the privileged sections of the society and the ensuring their the participations in the village level governance and various, and they can the advocates and their the developments and mental aspirations. This process reflects and the practice of direct democracy at the village levels, whilst the governance and systems at the state and union level is the indirect or the representative types. The compositions of the elected and representatives like the sarpanch and wards members of the GPS and involves various the social groups, and the government has provisions for capacities buildings of the representatives and to the facilities the effective functionings of the GPS and the facilitate social empowerment. PRI and women empowerment. PRI aided the additions of the about 1 million women and into the public life, and when the combines and with the 74th amendment women was taking steps to come forwards and the educate others women about the education hygiene and alcohol abuse etc. Women are rising and to the account more than 1 million women and have the XT. Women are also working to end child marriages and domestic labors, and as well as the promotes females education further. Most women have utilized their the political power to address the crucial concern such as health care. PRI has the witnessed and simultaneously a the remarkable success and a the strategic failures in the journey of 26 years depending on the goal post against which they are the evaluated. Whilst the PRI has the succeed and creating another layers of government and political representations at the grassroots levels, and it has failed to provide better government the grey and areas in the lacks of the adequate and thus. While the PRI he the succeed in creating the another layers of government and the political representation at the grassroots and levels, it has failed to provide the better governance. They gray areas in the lack of adequate funds, and there is need to the enlarge the domains of panchayats to be the owls to raise theirs the own funds. The interference of areas MPs and MLAs in the functioning of panchayat also advertisely affected their the performance. The 73rd constitutional amendment only mandated the creations of local self-governing bodies and left the decisions to delegate powers, functions and financials to state legislative, and therein the lies the failures of PRI. Conclusion. PRI is the social experience has been only the half successful as the experience included representations from various communities but failed to deliver as the panchayats and were left out at the margin of state legislative lectures and for the funds, and real empowerment will happen only when the panchayatas and will becomes the autonomous and in every the aspects. Question number 7. What, in our opinion, is the ideal forms of the practicing and secularism, and why the state and the substantial yours views? approach. Candidate can explain the idea of the secularism and it is the evolutions in the second part and uniques the natures of Indian secularism and can be the status whilst the arguments and for the ideas practices on of the secularism and related concept. Separation of church and that the civil laws, church toleration, civil laws related equality, non inferences of state rationality, agility, society balance. Introductions. Introduction. Secularism is the principle and that determines the relationships and between the government and the religious. It is plays an important role in other diverse countries and like India's the 42 amendment of the Constitution of India amendment the preambles of the Constitution declaring India as a the secular nation. In India the secularism means state view all the religious as equal body. State secularism. In political terms, secularism is the movement and towards the separation of religious and governments, often terms the separations of church and state. This can refers to reduce ties and between other government and the state and religious and replacing laws based on the sculptures and with the civil laws and the eliminating discriminations on the basis of religious and separation of the church and state is but one the opposition's strategy to be the destroyed by the seculars and governments and from the democratics to the authoritarians and such and the governments and shares other concern and to limits the religious sides in the relationships. Each state may find it is the ovens and unique policies, prescriptions and thus may the includes and separation careful monitorings and the regulations of organized and religious such as the France and Turkey and others. A major impact on the idea of state religious and liberty and come from the writings and of the John Locke who in his the letters concerning tolerations and argues in favors of religious tolerations and he argued that the government and must the treat and all the citizens and all the religious equalities and that it can restrict actions and but not and the religious and intent and behind them. For examples, Maharajas Ranjit Singh of the six empires of the first half of the 19th century successfully established other secular rules in the Punjab. This the secular rules impacted members of all the races and the religions and it is the allows them to participate and without the discriminations in Ranjit Singh Dharwar. India secularism. India concept of secularism is different from the Western concept of secularism in the West and it is the conceived as the separation of state and religions. Although in India the secularism is not the separation from the religious, rather state and see all the religious and as equals the Western secularism and means the totals non the interference of state and religions in the functioning of each others. On the other hand, in the India's the concept is not the restricted to the equals of how the religious groups are to be the treated and instead secularism developed other positive relations and between the state and religions. India secularism focus on the harmony among all the religions and that then tight separation and between the state and religions decreased the conflict. It is allows state to prevent the conflict on basis of religion through timely interventions and which would have been disastrous for the state if not the controlled room for the religious reforms. And India the secularism is borders in other sense that it allows states interventions to help reforms various evils and superstitions and many the rules in Karnataka allow the government to curb the superstitions that were the against human rights. What is the ideals practices India societies had the secularism principles in the culture before the event of western secularism, and there is no the ideals and forms of secularism as there are the many models of secularism in state, and they have evolved over the period of time and within their the unique environment. Secularism states and must string to achieve more the egalitarian societies and must act as the mediums to increase and the environment and that the enables dialogues tolerant and the scientific temples timber. Conclusion. Secularism is a code of duty pertaining to his style life, founded on the considerations purely human and intended mainly for those and who finds the theologies and indefined or inadequate the secular state and must the achieve a right balance between the rationalities and faith. In modern society, we must strive to achieve and the egalitarian secularism. Question number 8. Have you heard and the terms echo chambers? What does it is means and why is it a theater to socials the fabric of other nation examines approach? Candidate can define and what echo the chambers is with the help of example concept of echo chambers and can be the further discussed in the second parts and way the forward can be givings related concept keywords filter bubbles and choose and personalized algorithm perceptionism and configuration wise and segregations domestic discourse polarizations introduction. An echo chambers is the metaphorical safe space and where only the certain kinds of belief and ideas find entry and are the reinforced by the communications and the repetitions inside the closed and system personalized algorithm used by the social media's network are often understood to be the filterings out the viewpoint that are different from the ones and the users engage and with the help. Pampo, panno, patto, ponda, ponda. An echo chambers is the metamorphic shape space where only the certain kind of beliefs and ideas and find the entry and are the reinforced and by the communication and the receptions inside the closed and system and the personalization algorithm used by the social media's network are often the understood to be the filterings out the viewpoints and that are the different from the ones the users engage with the most. What is the echo chambers? In general, the terms echo chambers illustrate the ways and that data and bottlenecks or the silos restrict available choice and options too. For pupils or mechanized. Information can come from the many different sources and the perceptionized and but the when you are only the hearings the same perceptivist and the opinions over and the over again. You may be something called and the echo chambers in and the environments and where other person only the encountered informations on the opinions and that the reflects and the reinforces their own. Echo chambers can create the misinformation and distort a person and the perspective so they have difficulties considering oppositions viewpoints and discussing the complicated topics. They are fueled in the parts by the conflict by confirmations and views and what is the which is the tendency to favors echo that the reinforces exciting beliefs. Echo chambers can happen anywhere information is exchanges where is it online or in the real life, and what on the internet almost anyone's and can the quickly and find like-minded pupils and perceptive views and social medias and the countless new sources, and this has made echo the chambers and for the more and the numerous and easy to fail into. The internet also has the unique types of echo chambers and called are the filter bubbled, and filter bubbled are the created by the algorithm and that keep the tracks of the what you the kind click on website and with will then use and those the algorithm and to the primarily show you content that the similar to what you are already expressed internet in. This can the present you from the finding new ideas and the perceptions online. Why it is theaters to the social fabric. The gender and the diversity and availability of the digital content implies and that the pupils may choose to only the consumes content that matches their around the world and views, and we choose who to follow and who to be friends. The resulting echo chambers and tends to the amplify and reinforces our the exciting opinions and which is the dysfunctionals for other healthy democratic discourses, and internet has actually increased conflict and ideological segregations between the opposing views and grantings other disproportionate and accounts of clouds to the most and extreme opinion in other similar view when shouldn't attention gravings and focusing events and such as the natures and disasters and terrorist attacks or the external shocks to be the environment and could also away public opinion and the triggers hasty political decisions and with the potentials unsustainables and repercussions. The echo chambers may be the comfortings and but the ultimate it is looks up into the perpetual tribalism and does tangible damage to our the understanding. Polarizations in echo chambers has the consequences for beyond politics. For example, climate change's denial is strongly linked to political beliefs that despite the overwhelming evidence of anthropological poisoning climate change, the proliferations of outlets publishing claims attempting to counter the scientific consensus is hard. What can be done? Making a habit of checking multiple news and sources to encounters where getting complete objective information, interacting with the pupils of different perspectives and tech care to discuss new ideas and with the facts and patience and respected remembers that just the because you want some things to be the true and doesn't have it the fact. Conclusion. Social medias is other tools for the empowerment especially and for other country like India's and we 70% of the population is yet to get online and leverages the opportunities it has often but echo chambers hinders and our the ability to empowered and outself with the diverse voice and influence ways and infuse polarizations in opinions. We should be the avoiding twitters and wars and online debates to explore our the true potential. The more a nations get the integrated with the globals, the more savage is the theaters of catastrophics and spillovers of global crisis. Do you agree? Critically comments approach. A student can explain the concept of spillers and effect in globalizations while addressing the pros and cons and the integrating with global economic. A way forward can be the giving in the end. Related concept borderless words and sovereignty global village independence and protectionism and dependence and self the reliance and competitions introduce the spillovers effect. Effects refers to the impact and that the simultaneously and unrelated and events in one the nations can have on the economics of theirs of others nation in globalization. Although there are the positions spillovers affected, the terms is most the commonly applied to the negatives impact a domestic event has on other parts of the world and such as the earthquakes, stocks market crisis or war. Body globalization and spillovers effect. Globalization envisages a borderless words or the shifts the world as other global villages. It may be the attributed by the acceleration flow of the goods and people's capital information and the energy across borders, often enabled by the technology logical development. Spillover. Spillovers and affected are other type of network effect that the increase since the globalization in trend and stock market dependent the financial connected between the economics. For example, if the consumers spendings in the United States disciplines, it has the spillovers affected on the economic and that the depends on the US as there's the large just export market the larger and the economic is the more and spillovers affected it is likely to produce across the global economic. However, isolationism enforced by the COVID-19 pandemic has the pushed the growth of globalization in the world and tough the pandemics has the hasted globalization decline the protectionism and has been the increasing since the global financial crisis 2008. Pros of integrating and with the world orders. Globalization result in the increasing traits and standards of living. It is the heightened competition with domestic product capitals and labors market as well as amongst the countries adapting different rates and investment strategies. Transnational companies investing in installing plants and others the countries provides the employment for the pupils in those the countries often the getting them out of poverty. The proponent and says the globalization represents their free trade which the promotes and the lowers prices of consumers and why the reducing across borders and distances. Globalization has increased cross cultures understanding and sharing. A neutral globalization society boosts up the rate at which pupils are exposed to the cultures altitude and values of pupils in other countries. Cons of globalizations. The global financial crisis was a turning point as it's the struck at the twice for foundations of liberals and democracy and free market capitalization. While the free market ideology has been the fighting other battles of credibility and since it is took the maximum blames and for the 2008 crisis and free trade policies have now been and the severely and impacted due to the COVID-19. The pandemic has not only the exposed the fragility of highly optimistic supply chain that the spread across country and but has also shown and such as the inter and the country supply chains to be other theaters and to the national securities. Russia's Ukraine's war exposed the fragility of globalization as the rise in the crude oil. As India propounded As India propounded principles of self-reliance, it has become the evidence and that the post-Cold Wars and global orders is not very resilient to crises and wars. The spillovers affected to is encouraging the invaders and looking the trend among the developing and the developed economic. Conclusion: the although the effect of the integration have resulted in the rise in prosperities and flow of the FDI, and the optimum balance needs to be the maintained. And while the embracings and globalizations, the sovereignties and of state and independent foreign policies cannot be the comprised and in the times of crisis. Question number 10. The future of the cities in the city of futures include elucidates approach. Question can be approached while the defining recurrent thus in the futures. Recurrent them in future urbanization practices from the around the globals can be the highlighted for the sustainable urbanizations and prosperities. Related concept keywords: smart cities and sustainable government frameworks, ingraded and globalization of economic technology, cross transportations, demographics. Introduction: urbanization in pervasive and recent phenomena in the present global atmosphere. All the nations undergo with the challenges of environment, social transportations, economics in their the respective cities, and thus the issues are commonly occurred in developing countries due to the different of the development in the crisis cities and villages. Body: urbanization is when pupils and move from the rural and farmland and to cities and towards the urban and areas and are more the densely and packed and offer greater and opportunities and to the resident in the forms of highly payable jobs and larger varieties of job opportunities. Futures of cities and under currently the earth and is home to over 7.4 billion pupils and with over the half of those living in and the urban setting and using the 80% of the planets and resources by the 2050. The population is forecast and to be the just under the 10 billion pupils and with the 80% of that the populations expected to be the urbanization. The challenge and that every city is facing is how to the best delivers the resources and services needed to ensure other thriving populations and goods economic performance. Smart cities is a terms and the denoting the affected and the integrations of the physicals and the daily digitals of human systems in the built economic environment to deliver other sustainable and the prosperous and including the futures of for its citizens. While the foundations of the small cities is it is its and use of the technologies to enhances and the city performance and optimize service delivery. A major factor in what makes other city a small cities is its the levels of sustainability. A truly smart city uses the technologies to because becomes the self-aware and with the enables and enforce the decisions making other facilities and positive changes, and this includes and things like the tracking weather conditions and can measuring and water the supply and the consumptions to efficiently and manage use and tracking the waste patterns to create the more efficient and recycling programs. One of the most and glaring problems and facing the future cities in is how to make the sure and that the fundamentals needs of its the growings population are met. It's the most and powers water, food and the transportations and healthcare in both the normal blue skies conditions and during the disruptive event. Challenges being faced by the future cities: population growth and meeting the needs of and the aging populace increase human mobility and the globalizations of economics, ecologies, and risk and demographics and geopolitical shift and governance frameworks challenges and inequalities, social tensions and insecurity, food, water, energy, and developing the technologies and climate changes. What can be done? Relying a sense of urgencies over and the coalitions of problems and that the aren't directly observation example including the climate changes and water and the qualities and the impact environmentals and the sustainability issues and have an on the future's economic health, developing and financing the sustainable renewables and water infrastructures as in the UK. The US considers and what to be other fundamentals human right and according to addressing other failings and public transporting systems, and pupils often use more than one transportations including scarce pupils are more easily provided and with other systems and that can be the tolerate to their the specific need producing the food need to feed the 9 billion pupils. The solution here may very well be urban farmings and that supports rural farmings with would require a lot of innovations using high and low tech methods to produce the way of the growing more food in smaller spaces. Conclusion: by 2050 and nearly 10 billion pupils will share our planet as the mega cities rise and the technology and reshaped the urban landscapes and city of the future has to mix the blends of technology and the sustainability and four other place and where the civilization can prosper and programs. Thank you guys, this session will be close. माई सेल्फ और दी जाट अब आगे देखते हैं नेक्स्ट सेशन